An LSU beat writer for The Advocate and Nolan News, one of the best. We were really going to him a lot during baseball season, as we're going to do again. Just a FYI there, Wilson. Yeah, right. He was in Tuscaloosa, and he has obviously been covering this team all season long, and he joins us now here on this Monday morning. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I was also at John Mulaney in New Orleans. So
Hey.
nice.
How cool. It was great, wasn't it?
It was hilarious.
Oh, my God. I
hate that
cried.
he's so funny.
I laughed so hard.
That was pretty funny what we saw in Tuscaloosa, Wilson, wasn't it? I mean, that was a hell of a game.
I know. I mean, I have to admit it. If anyone saw the paper, our predictions, I thought Alabama would cover that massive spread, and obviously they didn't. That was a surprisingly great game to watch.
What has it been, Wilson, if you could? I know this is kind of an open question, but just like from your point of view, what has it been like covering this program this season?
It's been strange.
Yeah.
You went into the year, and obviously there was a lot of uncertainty. You knew Ed needed to coach well, and that LSU needed to play well for him to keep his job, and at least for another season or two or whatever. And it was pretty right off the bat, with the Sissy Blue and the loss to UCLA, you could just kind of tell this was going to be a strange year. And it's been up and down. There's been some pretty good moments, like all of a sudden, them knocking off Florida and playing well against Alabama. But for the most part, it's just been strange because the team just hasn't been very good, and hasn't been a ton of. I mean, there's been interest. Obviously, it's LSU football, but it's just sort of having covered the 2019 season and then the last two seasons, it's been a very stark difference, obviously.
What did you make of Orgeron on Saturday night? Jacques, our friend over at WAFB, it seemed like had a camera on him and cut up some of the reactions of Orgeron and kind of the way that he handled himself on Saturday. What was the air that you thought he was operating under?
Yeah, I saw that video that Jacques posted. I was props to Jacques because you could just tell. I mean, he's just going for it. And he said in the post game he doesn't like the phrase that nothing to lose because there's a game to lose. But you could see the last 2 weeks that he's just sort of no hold, nothing, holding nothing back and just sort of throwing the kitchen sink at it. I mean, you saw him against Ole Miss almost do that like roll the dice thing after motion after like a fourth down early in the game. And then here he was he was having fun with it, and they lose the game and he goes over and raises both arms with the L's. And I've never seen a losing coach look so proud.
He did. I loved it.
And I mean, you got to hand it to them because they were huge underdogs with nothing left in the defense pretty much other than like Damone Clark and Neil Farrell and DJ Ojulari, and were able to, hold Alabama to the lowest rushing yards they've ever had in a Nick Saban coach team. And so, he had something to be proud of, and you don't blame him, but it's been kind of fun to watch the last couple of weeks. He's just throwing it all out there.
What have you made of Myles Johnson's play over the last couple of weeks, and specifically what you saw on Saturday night? Yeah,
it hasn't been a good stretch for Max. There's been a couple games now here where he's thrown for less than 200 yards. He's thrown a couple interceptions. Obviously had that one that wasn't really totally his fault late in the second half, but he's just, his throws there was a couple plays when you rewatch the film there late in the fourth quarter where one in particular, he's throwing off his back foot, trying to hit Jack Besh on a fourth down on LSU's kind of last full possession before, you're just kind of like trying to get to the end zone, and overthrows Besh. Well, we saw Bryce Young make kind of a similar throw and make it and, throw a touchdown earlier in the game, having to kind of roll back, and Bryce Young was kind of baiting the defense too. And Max was, trying to avoid the rush, throwing off his back foot and just sailed it. And he just looks out of sync, a little discombobulated. I mean, the whole offense does, though. So it's hard to put a lot on Max because he's under pressure, get bit, and this offense just is not clicking at all on it, and it really hasn't been for most of the season.
This might be an unfair question, but just from your point of view, what do you expect the roster to look like in the next month? Do you expect a lot of turnover? Do you expect there to be an opportunity to see who comes in, how they run it, and then make a decision? Probably the latter there. I don't, it seems like, whoever they have still left on the team is probably going to be, playing through playing out the string here the last 3 games. There's a lot of guys who, kind of have to prove that they are, draft eligible, or not even draft eligible, but like worthy of getting picked. I mean, Damone has proved a lot, but he's got,
the way he plays, and he's got so much heart. He's going to be probably playing until that last snap of the season. Farrell kind of the same way. A lot of guys on that offensive line. There probably won't be a ton more. Who else can they lose at this point, anyway? But and then at the season, you'll probably see a lot of guys making decisions and trying to see what this new coaching staff is like.
Speaking of Neil Farrell, how much money has he made in the last couple of weeks?
It's going to be really interesting to see, because he's kind of a super senior, and so it kind of gets in that question of, okay, can we continue to develop this guy at the next level, or is because of his age is he kind of maxed out? But he's certainly earned himself a chance in the NFL. I mean, he's been just phenomenal the last few weeks. Now, he's struggled a little bit still with kind of his gap discipline. That's part of what makes him a really good player is he's aggressive, but sometimes he'll jump out of his gap, and then LSU allows an explosive run. But at the same time, he's a really good pass rusher on the inside. Really hard to block him one-on-one. 3 weeks in a row with 7 straight tackles. And, he was just dominating Alabama at the line of scrimmage. He's been really impressive this season and one of LSU's best players.
I want to pivot back to Max real quick. We had Myles Brennan on, I would say, sometime last week, and he talked about his time at LSU going through, I think, 5 seasons with 5 different coordinators is how he put it. And when you look at Max Johnson, he's almost on the same trajectory of having this will be his 3rd year with what looks to be a 3rd different coordinator. Are you worried about him if he comes in as the incumbent having to learn a 3rd system where it almost sets him up to fail, where he's had so much put on his plate to this point where he can't even play football the way he wants to? It's almost like he's trying to process everything, and he goes into another year having to learn another new offense. It just seems like he's set up to fail at this point.
No, yeah, that's a great point. People talk about it all the time, like quarterbacks in particular need stability, need to have a coordinator who meshes with them and have the system work. And, last year he's a freshman and, you're learning a lot as a freshman, and that's hard. But this year, with all the way Pete's has kind of struggled, to call the offense at times, Max has been sort of roped into that. And it's going to be tough to learn a new system, but it's going to depend on the system and the play caller really at the end of the day. Because if it's someone who really understands Max, understands what he does well, and puts his offense in a good position to make plays and win, then Max can have a lot of success. And, maybe then by the last couple of years of his LSU career, he'll be able to really settle into something and mesh well with it and have a lot of success. But it's just going to depend on who that person is and what kind of plays they're calling in certain situations, and if they work, because a lot of it kind of goes back to that.
Wilson Alexander joining us here. He covers LSU on for The Advocate. He's also on Twitter at WHAlexander_ is where you can follow him. Wilson, did you watch 20 innings of baseball on Sunday?
No, our new my new beat partner, Leah Van.
The short straw.
She watched 20 innings though. You got to give her props. She got up early to leave Meridian, where we stayed for the Bama game, and got on back to that scrimmage and watched a heck of a lot of baseball yesterday.
That seemed like a ton of baseball. How early did y'all leave?
What's that now?
How early did y'all hit the road?
Well, we had I guess 2 different cars, and I was able to leave at 9 o'clock, but I think Leah was out there 7 a.m.
Look at Wilson. Turned into a little brainiac now. I'll take 2 cars.
Trust me, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Sunday, it'll come faster than you think. What was that atmosphere like on Saturday night?
In Tuscaloosa? It was a little subdued at first. It took a while, kind of a little bit of time for the crowd to get in there. And then it was one of the better atmospheres I've seen this season. They had those pom-pom shakers going all over the place, and the light show was, well coordinated. Say what you will about it, but
Always.
It was certainly well coordinated. And Alabama put on a great show. It's a fun place to watch a game. I know LSU fans don't think so all the time, but they did a good job over there, and it got pretty loud at the end. Not as loud as Tiger Stadium, really, but it was rocking a little bit there at times. They did not expect to have such a close game.
How would you compare it to the in-game experience at LSU? Because it feels like whenever you see the light show and what they're doing, it feels almost like a concert. And at LSU, it's so reliant on just show up and be loud, and you get this whole visceral experience. I don't think I would see LSU pivot to that, but do you think that's something that people would want?
I don't know. I haven't heard of a lot of LSU fans who are like really pro, crazy lights and stuff. I remember somebody asked me, I think it was Glenn Logan during the 2019 championship season, if they liked that. And he was kind of in favor of it, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's more manufactured at Alabama, what they do, than LSU, where it's very much, like you said, all just created by the people in the stadium. And if there aren't enough people in the stadium, like, last year at some games this year, like if it's a bad opponent, and then excuse me, the atmosphere is a little bit subdued. But when you get everybody in there, LSU doesn't have to do any gimmicks because those fans make it happen themselves.
The light show is awesome, though, and it plays well even on television.
Yeah,
I can't imagine what the experience is like in stadium. Wilson, are you covering the basketball team this season?
No, our Sheldon Mickles will be doing that. So make sure y'all follow Sheldon for everything. We've got a good team over here where we get to split things up.
Always appreciate your time. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Sounds like you still got a little bit of Tuscaloosa in you, brother.
Yeah, something showed up this morning. I bet.
That early call from the Jordy Culotta Show showed up is what happened. Thank you as always, buddy. We'll be talking again soon.